A Michigan mother is seeking answers and help after her 11-year-old son was strip searched and placed in a holding cell at school by a teacher. Now, Cheyanne Johnson says her son Xavier was isolated in a windowless room with no desk, chair, schoolwork, or adult supervision. School staff used a rubber doorstop to prevent the 11-year-old from freeing himself. The child was detained after being in a minor altercation with another student. Now, Xavier and his mother, Cheyanne Johnson, join me now, and we have Christine Laster, the Director of Policy and Legislation of the National Parents Union from Michigan. Everyone, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network. Cheyanne, I'm going to start with you. This is such a traumatizing thing to hear about, but I would like for our audience to hear from you specifically about what you felt, thought, and understood when you first got the call that this had happened to your son.
When Xavier texted me and sent me the video, my heart instantly sank. My stomach started to turn. I really was in disbelief, like, is this real? Is this really where they put my kid? And my next question to him was, where's your desk? Where's the teacher? Where's your homework?
And the first time you found out about it was through Xavier communicating it himself. It wasn't through school personnel or district personnel?
Exactly.
And what type of back and forth did you have with him when he first sent you that video and that text?
He sent me the video and the text. I stayed texting him until I arrived at the school. I made a couple of phone calls before I arrived at the school, one to his pediatrician. I had called my mother to come and get me because, as any normal mother, I was super infuriated that my child is being treated like this.
Now, Xavier, when they put you in the room and you had this experience to look around, there's no work, there's no desk, there's no chair, and you're just being isolated, how did you feel in that moment?
I was scared. I couldn't breathe, and I wanted my mom. It's not fair. I always get in trouble, and nobody else ever does. No, I don't feel safe. I'm scared. The things they did to me keep replaying in my mind. I cry most days over this.
Well, it sounds awful to hear, and our thoughts are with you, Xavier. We hope that we can move past this. I want to pivot to you, Christina, because from a policy and legislation perspective, what's at your disposal to attend to this type of issue?
So Xavier, outside of being a protected student under federal protections, he's also a student with disabilities with an IEP, an individual education plan. And they were supposed to have service and support. So they violated their own policies and federal rules and laws. Plus, there is a set of Michigan compiled laws that speak specifically regarding seclusion that they violated. Even the time frame of which, even under emergency situations, you were to seclude and the notice and all of those things. So we will be pursuing a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights, the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, and the Department of Justice to do an independent investigation, a real one, not like the one that the Mount Pleasant Public Schools claim to do, and then to hold accountability. There's federal dollars that are spent in schools, and they cannot do this type of stuff. It's unlawful and inhumane.
So I was just going to ask you about that, Christina. When you say hold accountability, what are some of the outcomes that your organization is looking for as accountability? Is it to withhold those federal dollars?
Yes, what really needs to happen is a top-down firing of some of the bad actors in Mount Pleasant Public Schools. This is not an isolated incident. We saw these types of practices with Journey Hoffmeyer when they cut her hair at school, where there's this projecting and lack of reflecting, right? They tend to blame the parents or somehow the students, and then claim that they neutrally do independent investigations on themselves. I don't expect to see justice without an external intervention, because the Mount Pleasant Public Schools has shown themselves to be, basically biased when it comes to holding themselves accountable.
Cheyanne, I want to come back to you. Did you feel like Xavier was being targeted?
I have for 4 years now. Like, this isn't the first incident that's happened. This has been going on for a while, and this is it. This is what set me off. I'm completely done with the games of sweeping it under the rug. I'm tired of having to basically help my child cope because he can't go to school without being racially profiled or having other children call him racial slurs.
Xavier, I want to ask you a question, and I know so much of this has been sad and heavy, but we want to uplift and highlight your humanity. What is your favorite thing to do when you go to school? If there's none of the problems that your mom talked about, if everything's going well, what part of school do you like the most?
Math and talking to friends and going to recess and just to be free with other people instead of being targeted or in trouble. I want to learn or have fun.
And so how do you then feel when you don't have the opportunity to go and do math, which you like and enjoy, or hang out with your friends or play at recess? How does it feel then when they've taken that opportunity from you?
I feel sad and questioned because what did I do? I don't know what I did.
Christina, I hear this, and I imagine all of us who hear this are heartbroken, both in the theoretical sense about the rules not being applied, but in the literal sense of the implications of what this means for Xavier, how he'll move through and think about educational systems and spaces. But you've documented, Christina, that this happens in this school district. We did not see justice the first time we tried to appeal for this, and there was a community of those calling for justice. Is there any reason to be optimistic now that there will be external pressure to deliver real accountability?
Well, if we're looking for hope to change hearts, then I don't seem optimistic about that. But I am optimistic about legislating justice. So we can't legislate hard change, but we can definitely pursue and legislate justice, and we will pursue by all means. In the meantime, I am advising all the parents who have experienced this or similar harm in the Mount Pleasant Public Schools to please reach out to the National Parents Union. We have a form where you can anonymously, or if you want to share your story, let us know, because we do know that this is a particular pernicious pathological issue in Mount Pleasant Public Schools.
Now, Christina, another thing I want to draw our viewers' attention to is this isn't the South, right? We so often talk about, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to some of our earlier guests, but she was talking about how some of the more nefarious political gamesmanship we see are in parts of what we call geographically southern U.S. Michigan's not southern U.S., but yet we're still seeing some of that predatory behavior that has harmful effects. What is it that you want our viewers to take away about the experiences of Black and brown children across the nation?
You know, this is similar to the experiences that our grandparents faced with the white citizens councils, right? I mean, if people need to be able to recognize what is happening and be willing to pursue justice, stand up and fight back. Our children, we have to protect our children. They're our most prized possessions. And so I never advise any parents to leave their children in a school where there is harm. But at the same time, we need to be advocating for those children that don't have access to another place to go. Where are the children supposed to go? You know, it's really interesting how Xavier was getting in trouble for all of the issues of being called out of his name. He was punched in the privates in the bathroom by white students, and none of them faced any penalty. But then he can be falsely imprisoned based on accusations from the same students that don't like him. You know, and what is that conditioning our children to think about themselves? That type of isolation and confinement is conditioning him for the school to prison pipeline. Very clear. We need to be in hot pursuit of justice with what's happening to our children all across this nation.
Hang tight for a second, guys. I got a panel I want to bring in. Kelly Bethea, Matt Manning, and Michael Imhotep. Michael, you have a question. I want you to offer your question to our guest here.
All right. Well, thanks, Ray. Look, I want to thank everybody for coming on. Xavier, Cheyenne, and Christina. I saw the interview you did yesterday. And the question I have, I remember, Christina, you saying that an investigation was done. The Mount Pleasant school did an investigation, and they said that they found that the allegations were not true or something to that effect. And when I'm trying to find out, Xavier filmed himself inside the room, okay, and we saw that video. So are they saying that he made all this stuff up, or like what exactly are they saying was not founded? And did somebody say that he had a gun on him? Apparently he did not, but did somebody make an allegation also that he had a gun on him?
Obviously he wasn't too much of a threat if he was able to get his phone into the room, right?
Right.
And so what you're asking is what we're also considering. How do we how are we able to view evidence when they keep denying our Freedom of Information Act rights? How are we able to see the evidence that proves that the allegations were even made in the first place and that there was an investigation on that? We're asking the same people who hold and pride themselves to now turn and challenge themselves to tell the truth. We're asking the same people who are perpetuating this harm and the discrimination on our students to now hold themselves accountable. I just don't see that happening. The investigation, if they did conduct one, would be biased and botched again, like it was in the Hoffmeyer situation, because they haven't reached out to the family or the medical expertise of team that he has in his life because of his disabilities.
Cheyenne, I want to close with you. What is it ultimately that you would like for Xavier and his education career moving forward? If we were in the world where the school district did abide by the laws and rules that were on the book, what ultimately would you like for Xavier?
I just want my child to receive an education. Like the education that is offered to every other child in America, or I'm sorry, every white child in America, because my child is being robbed of his education. I just want him to be able to go to school and not be called names. I don't want to get a horrifying text message of a video of him sitting in a room. And I don't want him to come home from school crying because kids have been mean to him all day, and now it's to the point where he hates the way he looks. He hates the color of his skin. He doesn't want to be around anymore, or to tell me that he doesn't even want to be alive. Like, just for a parent to hear that, it's horrible. And I want better for my kid.
Kelly, you had a question?
I did. So, considering that this was done on school grounds and teachers, by and large, are considered agents of the state when they do warrantless searches, how is this not unconstitutional on the federal level as well as the state level, considering that not only was he searched, he was strip searched, and it was a warrantless search, and the bar to meet the standard of the strict scrutiny necessary to meet the standard of searching a child in this fashion just simply wasn't met by the way the accounts have been said here. How are you guys navigating that?
Christina, would you be kind enough to take that for us, please?
Yes, of course, we're going to be pursuing legal action, at the same time recognizing that they violated MCL 380.1307, right? The Michigan compiled laws with regards to seclusion and a whole bunch of IDEA and FAPE rules and rights. You know, basically what they did to him was unlawful, inhumane, unconstitutional, but we just have to pursue in the courts, because when we're calling to say we want to file a police report, we want to file a report on this agency or this school or this teacher, this particular part of Michigan and the Department of Michigan has not been willing to hold them accountable for their actions and their violations. And so, you know, the only thing recourse that we do have is to, of course, secure safety and security of the child and their education, but seek remedy in the courts. And that's what we will do.
And Matt, before we get out of here, I want to offer you a space to ask a question.
Sure. My question, and first let me commend you, Cheyenne and Xavier, for being here, standing up for yourselves, because I get so many calls about cases like this where people unfortunately don't take such action. Nonetheless, has the school told you how often they use this room to seclude students that are suspected of such action? Because it stands to reason that they're employing one policy with Black and Indigenous and Brown students that they're not using with other students? Have they given you all that information on how frequently they're using this room?
They have given us no information.
Like, can I speak to that? We have put in several requests, right? Part of that was the Freedom of Information Act open and public records request that we asked for. We asked for incident reports. We asked for days. We've been asking for information that they have just refused to turn over.
Christine Lassiter, thank you so much for your time. Cheyenne, Xavier, we're so sorry that this is the way that we have to engage you and that we come across meeting you, but we are grateful that we can be the vehicle that you all are using to get this story out into the public. Christina, how can folks amplify this story? How can they ensure that there's enough pressure on the specific school district to attend to this issue?
I would ask that people would email the U.S. Department of Education or contact the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, the Michigan Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, and ask the legislators in Michigan to hold accountability behind what's happening in Mount Pleasant. Like I said, this is not an isolated incident. The superintendent, Jennifer Bergler, definitely is careless and callous with regards to these actions, and she needs to be fired, and they need to bring someone in that is willing to set the district in a right trajectory and the right path for all students to learn freely.
Guys, we are so sorry that this is how we meet, but we're grateful that we're able to be this vehicle. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for your time.
I rolled my unfiltered video in just one moment.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself. I'm feeling
She ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I want some hood girls looking back at it and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince? Well, who cares? Prime changed everything.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?